The Henderson Inclusion School motto is we're better together, and we truly are better together. We're better together as instructors. We're better together as administrators and staff working together. And when I say staff, I don't just mean teachers, I mean cafeteria personnel, school secretary, custodian, all working to support students. We celebrate the fact that we're all different, that we look different, we speak different, we come from different places, we learn differently. We have roughly a third of our population is white, a third of our population African American, and then the other third is split between being Asian and Latina and some other smaller populations. Roughly a third of our students have disabilities, ranging from significant to very mild, moderate. We have an average class size a bit bigger than average, which is 24. Out of those 24, 5 of the students have significant, what would be considered significant disabilities. So here, the norm is to be different.
Mike, do you want to play? Yeah. Mike, do you want to play? You want to do it? Ronan, do you want to play?
You know how it's as many times as much, so she has 46 times as many as I have.
So co-teaching basically is a general ed teacher and a special ed teacher planning, making all decisions about instruction, about grouping, about routines together on a daily basis. For me and my partner, we really sit down together and think about how we can best meet the needs of the students.
I would say co-teaching is definitely a marriage with as much communication as possible, being open to adapt your teaching practice.
This week and next week, we're going to make comic strips of Greek myths.
Even though there is technically a title of general education and special education teachers, we will take on both roles within the school day in order to meet the needs of the children.
Nope, you just summarize.
Our goal is to bring the expertise into the classrooms, teaching all kids together. We want to have the most highly qualified people working directly with students and having as much face time with students as possible.
Alliteration, simile, now we're on metaphor.
In my experience, I've never had a one-on-one aide in our class. We've had paraprofessionals floating around and supporting all the needs of students. I think it's really powerful to have peers be teachers to their other friends and helping them to learn in that capacity. I think sometimes students learn better sometimes from their peers than they do from us.
One day King Midas was out in his beautiful rose garden.
Giving the role of teacher to another student is so powerful.
Stair was lost, so King Midas gave him some food and directed him.
When there's a one-to-one para assigned to a student, it often becomes a barrier because they're kind of learning to depend on another adult when they can learn independence on their own over time. It might be a little bit harder for them to learn their independence throughout the school year when there isn't a one-on-one aide there, but by the end of the year, that child will become much more independent on their own.
I watched one time a student struggle with something and the teacher was trying to understand it, and the student said, "Oh, you just do it like this," and said to his friend, and the teacher said, "That's wonderful." So the teachers learn from the students as well.
What rhymed with more? Mary? Sure. Good job, Mary.
But let's just worry about the cartoon today. Okay, you're gonna get some big, nice paper with
4 years ago, we would do whole class instruction most of the time, and then maybe pull a few groups aside. Our achievement was mediocre at best. We started to really look closer at data, which pointed us in a direction of whole class teaching isn't working, especially given the range of learners that we have in our classroom. So what we decided to do was take smaller groups of students for instruction, which turned into what we call station teaching. So 4, maybe sometimes 5 stations. Some are technology stations, some are facilitated teacher-led stations, others are independent stations, all teaching the same concept, but teaching in a different way.
I've been teaching for about 7 years now, and so when I came into teaching, the workshop model was very much, what was in. And so we would do mini lesson, whole group class, work, activity, and then come back and share together. Our teaching has basically been transformed because of station teaching. So for instance, we would do a station with a book, like a piece of literature, say The Jacket by Andrew Clements. And we would make that book available in text form as well as audio. And then instead of having them write their responses, what we've done this year to make it more interesting for the kids is have them respond via iPad, so video record their responses. Like when we first did it, they were just like so engaged and really like talking and disagreeing with each other about what they learned and understood. So we really think about, okay, here's the content first, but how are we going to get kids engaged in the content, and how can we go deeper with the content? Today, during math, we had a smartboard station. We try to use technology at least one station a day, per day. There's a lot of software already made where kids can do Jeopardy-style games where they can learn and review content that we already have.
And what started to happen is we started to notice that our students were making pretty amazing progress. And we're one of the top achieving schools in the state. What I think caused that was the real sort of deep dive into data, as well as including students with significant disabilities really helped us to become stronger instructors.
I might be one of the biggest supporters of UDL. I think UDL is amazing in all lesson planning because you are ensuring that all students are being able to access their curriculum and express themselves in as many ways as possible. So today in our classroom, we were learning about Greek myths. We've been learning about myths for the past 3 or 4 weeks now. And getting them to summarize is a very boring thing for them to do. So thinking, hey, they can make a cartoon today to summarize one of the Greek myths that they've had, made it so much more engaging for them. There are a lot of students in our class who are sometimes reluctant to try new things, but the way that you kind of present that information to them makes it a lot easier for them to want to jump in and join in the work. So I think UDL makes all curriculum very accessible to children, making sure that you are giving them multiple ways to see the information, giving them multiple ways to express themselves.
So teachers have automatically started to plan to teach and present information to students in many ways during the first teach, which is really cutting down on the amount of time spent reteaching skills.
We have some iPad apps that help you make cartoons, and there's also a computer program that we're going to try to figure out to get us to make some cool cartoons. Is it fun? Yeah, it's pretty fun.
I feel like my greatest responsibility as the leader of the school is to be an advocate for the students who do not have a voice. So while we have many students whose parents have very strong voices and advocate for what they need to learn best, we do have students that don't have that privilege. So I'm here to make sure that those students have a voice, and I'm also here to make sure that every student gains access to the curriculum. And if you have a disability, that we're minimizing the impact that that disability has on your learning. I really feel like my main focus every day is on instructional leadership, and I would say that I spend greater than 90% of my time on it.
Fabulous.
Thank you. What we strive for is consistency in our practice, in our instructional practice. Not conformity, but consistency.
You're the author, so you're going to make the final decision here. She is brave. She's brave, okay? So that makes sense, Abigail, because she's sad.
So we want to use consistent practices that we know will work.
What would happen? What would happen if you are wise to Miss Trunchbull? What would she do?
But we also want to have a school culture where we're a professional learning community and we're sharing best practices and helping each other to problem solve. Having data is one thing, using it is a very different thing. And so we had lots of data. We weren't using it as efficiently and effectively as we could. What are students actually learning? Are we building critical thinkers, or are they following rules? And so having a system to do that has made us more efficient instructors and really given us a place to really, with a laser focus, look at growth areas.
What happened in the story? You said they changed their mind.
Well, the kids changed their mind.
Today we're going to reflect a little bit on our instructional effectiveness. I think for me, one of the things I'm going to do differently next year is to really think about using professional development time as well as common planning time to help us work on vertical alignment. I thought we'd begin with sort of working together with your co-teacher. I thought we'd do think and share.
We started off as 35% proficiency as a class. By interim 4, we were at 74%. And I think that goes to our focus on individualizing our instruction. So the huge gains that they made in this particular standard was amazing. And I think it had to do with our reteaching. And I think, as Danielle said, although that was something we struggled with interim 1, we continue to focus on that in interim 2 and interim 3. And I just really think that that was the key to the success that the students had.
In our different stations, we always made sure we had a nonfiction station and a fiction station. In this skill specifically, when we first tested, we were at 38% as a class. We're now at 90%. Wow. Good. Kudos.
In math, one thing that we were very proud of is our students tackling multiplication and division word problems. On A1, we had 77%, and on A4, we had 98% proficiency. And what we noticed is the same, kind of what we did in ELA and math. We made sure we always had a station that was dedicated to word problems and really tackling those.
Last year we all met and we had this big lovely meeting. We'll call it a moment where we all kind of embraced each other in the big shift of fractions. And so this year, when Amy came up to third, she kind of looked at second grade fractions versus third grade fractions, and it's huge. One of the biggest leaps in the Common Core. It's just so huge. So we were very proactive regarding that, and we're really impressed with fractions on a number line. Our kids got 85%, which is huge because last year on the ANET, they were in like the 40s. So this year, while we made sure that they were using their bodies, there was a lot of kinesthetic human number lines going on. We did a lot using the smartboard. We had them manipulate paper and make their own number lines. That was huge.
For me, what I was thinking was about the power that conferencing had this year with our students and sharing.
It was mine.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's okay.
Can we say it together?
And then also we focus most of our conferencing on ELA, so I'd really like to share student data with students in math as well. And then the other thing that is a challenge that I feel is a challenge for myself for next year is really looking at and anticipating how can I present this in multiple ways from the beginning, very similarly to what Cynthia and Mary did.
As we move next year into sharing data with students, and it's not about sort of knowing where you are compared to other people, but knowing what you're really good at is very powerful.
We have such a wealth of knowledge, amongst us, and having that time to share together has been, I think, one of the most powerful things I feel in my own professional development.
One of the things that really just struck me now is, yes, the importance of us having an opportunity to come together and talk about what's working, what's not, and how do we strengthen each other even more in these conversations.
We can sit here and feel comfortable that we don't know everything.
Yeah.
Right? So that's huge. At least for me, maybe because I'm so old.
It's kind of like a doctor.
I don't know that.
I also think it's like a surgeon.
I don't know something.